Welcome back to the program. From 1968 to 1990, then to 2004, we left the Companies and Other Matters Act largely. With a few changes among those years, but now the Nigeria's National Assembly has breathed a new life into the Companies and Other Matters Act, Nigeria's most important business law, passing new amendments to ease business for small and medium enterprises, help startups, boost investment, help the securities market, save companies from total collapse, and create jobs. Now, the making of that is what we are looking at. And let's bring in Ayodiji Ebo, who is the Managing Director at Afinvest Securities, one of the licensed investment securities and trading firm on the market. Good morning. It's good to have you here.
Good morning.
Let's have a handshake, albeit very premature, that we have a new CAMA 24 years after. That looks like a long time.
Yes, well, long time, and it is good that it's coming at this time, because when we also look at the way in terms of the structure of the business in the last 14 years or in the last 24 years, things have changed within the global economy.
The world has moved on.
Has moved on. So in terms of relevance, it has been a major bottleneck in terms of setting up businesses, taking businesses to other level. And
24 years.
Yes.
And we left the most important piece of business, investment and economic legislation unchanged.
But never late than late.
No, it's late. Yeah. 24 years. If you piggyback how much we would have lost in 24 years, that we left this legislation unchanged, that would amount to mind-boggling money, isn't it?
Yes, because if you look at the way Nigerian economy is structured, the micro, small and medium scale enterprise accounts for about 50% of contributes about 50% to the GDP and accounts for over 80% of employment. You have over close to 40 million small and medium scale enterprises. So a lot of these companies have been finding it challenging in terms of structuring their business, registering their business, setting up their businesses. And with this introduction, with the new life into the CAMA law since 2004, we feel there's a lot of bottlenecks that have been addressed.
It's interesting, but again, we can browbeat ourselves about what we didn't do. So let's get down to business, because this conversation is just starting. This is our first word on it. It's going to take a whole lot of time to go over this. So let's go start it from one of the top and easy picks from this. One of this is that they now have single-member companies. What does that mean? Quickly, let's keep touching them.
Very interesting. You have to look at what was the status quo. Initially, if you want to set up your company, you need 2 or 3 directors that needs to partner with you. And that also has always been a major challenge, because you have to look for someone that aligns with your vision. You have to look for someone that is willing to partner with you. And we've seen a lot of issues that have arisen as a result of that people taking up companies or laying claims to other companies as a result of just bringing them in to be part of you to set up your company.
To register a company.
To register
let's
your
make
company.
It simple. To fill from CO2 and from CO7 and prepare your MEMAT. That's what it means.
Yes.
Yes. So you need 2, 3,
4 directors.
As directors.
Exactly.
And some folks go ahead and include their house boys and house girl and driver's name as directors, just because they want to register a company.
Just to complete it. But now, as an individual, you can register your company. You need not bring in any other person.
So I can register from today. According to the new CAMA review, I can have Bosun Nigeria Limited with just my name all on the document, and it's legal.
Yes, it's legal.
And it becomes a company.
Once it's signed, we believe that also it aligns with the president's agenda of ease of doing business. So we don't stage any major bottleneck.
So what we call one-man
law.
Business in Nigeria in local parlance, this is putting it into law and making it legal.
Yes, putting it into law. And you're able to, for most of the companies that are having it, have been challenged in terms of getting people to also partner with them. It's easier for them, for startup companies to
and folks
register
don't have to lie anymore. That's what it means.
Yes, exactly. It's very,
you don't have
very
to lie
easy
by putting fictitious names to register a company.
Yes. And that also corroborates what the vice president is also looking at. We saw in the last, I think, 3 or 4, 6 months ago, registering online. So it's really going to ease that process of registration. So it's further legislates the process of online registration of your company.
And it
you don't have
reduces
to
costs
travel
as well, isn't it?
Yes, that boils down to the cost, because if for some companies, if you have directors, you have to be paying sitting allowance when you want to have meetings. And some of those things that have also been introduced that be interesting for our listeners to notice that initially you are also mandated to have annual general meetings. Now that has been waived. It's not compulsory, no longer compulsory
to have an AGM.
AGM as a small company or a startup company, it's not compulsory to have an AGM. Also, if in terms of business, if there's no transaction for a particular year, it's not compulsory to have an audit or to do your normal filings for that period. So
to file returns
also
to the
audit
government.
costs. Yes, also audit costs would also be eliminated. And in terms of the ways being,
you don't need to have a company secretary as well. I also saw that here.
Yes, exactly.
So you don't have to be burdened with those employment because you're a small company.
Exactly. So you are just able to focus on your company. And for companies, in terms of their turnover, if your turnover is not up to 10 million in a year, it's not compulsory
10 million naira.
And your balance sheet is not up to 5 million in a year, it's not compulsory that you have you audit your transaction for that year.
So if I have a furniture company or a carpentry company in which I just do bed, chair, and table by the roadside, which is just about ₦1 million in total value, now this is an opportunity for me to be a going concern legally, isn't it?
Yes, at least registered, known, and if you want to access credit, and you can go as an entity that's been registered, that is known, rather than just have your just having your name as your company without any major form documentation before.
Or making it legal.
Yes.
No, for those in the tech sector, this is going to be music to the boys in Yaba, isn't it? Some of them who have software rights, whatever they've written, and all the plans they have, the computer village. So they can just say, well, this is just my name. I can register a company. It's a limited liability. I can approach banks for credit. I can be part of what BOI is doing, Bank of Industry, I mean, and what have you, and I'm legal.
Yes, exactly. For some of them, just on your seat, it means that you can go online, register, key in your details, and within few hours or within few days, your company can be registered. But also, we need to also be wary now that it's going to be one, like what we call in quotes, one-man business, only you running your business. Corporate governance may also be watered down. And you know, in terms of also assessing credit, if you don't have the right structure in terms of keeping, that's bookkeeping, in terms of keeping records of your transaction, the banks will not be comfortable to lend to you, even if you also have potential investors that you are also looking at joining the business. You have to keep records. That does not water down.
This is setting it up. Does not obviate
yes.
the regular and extant rules on
corporate governance,
whether it is one-man business or 100-man business.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move it forward and look at what this new provisions has to do in terms of when we allow small companies and one-man business, as it were, and we use the phrase very carefully here, or startups here, that makes it easy for venture capitals, angel investors to come in, isn't it?
Yes, it makes it very easy for them. It's to one, just you have limited people to meet up to decide that whether they want to accept fresh capital. You know, when you have 2, 3 directors, if in terms of the views are not aligned, and they are not comfortable with the potential capital injection, that sometimes may stall any potential capital injection.
Now, if you look at the economic impact of the provisions of this bill, looking at ensuring more business-friendly regulation for micro, small, and medium enterprises. This is where the whole conversation about job creation comes from, isn't it?
Yes, you know, earlier I mentioned that the small and medium scale segment accounts for over 80% of employment. And it's what we classify as the informal sector in Nigeria. A lot of companies, because of some of the major bottlenecks, have not been able to register their companies. They've not been able to see directors that will help in terms of sign up. Also, you look at the cost, because you are just starting, you just have that nice idea. But because the cost of registering, the cost of filing, some of those things put you off. But with the current
so just keep it in your room and parlor.
Yes, or you just keep running it and it's not legalized, it's not official. But now,
and you don't, and most likely you're not paying tax.
And you are not paying tax. So
exactly. This is a very smart way, isn't it? This is Buhari's smart way. I'm sure Kemi Adeosun will like this. Because the more you register, then they grab you from the CAC, then your name is in the pool.
Yes.
At some point, they can come knocking on your door that you need to pay tax.
Yeah, it's really going to add to revenue in that aspect. Also, something that I feel we also need to mention is the introduction of limited liability partnership, which we ab initio don't have at all. It's just like an hybrid of limited liability company and partnership. You know, partnership, for most, when you set up a partnership in terms of
like
the liability,
like in a law firm, an accounting and reporting accountant.
Yes, if there's any major obligation of the company, there's also recourse to you as shareholders. Or if one of your partners, there's a misconduct by any of your partners or a negligence, also affects the other partners. But with this new law, limited liability partnership, it's any misconduct, any major liability by one of the partners or negligence by one of the partners does not affect other partners within that firm. So it makes it more comfortable for you to align views, get partners in terms of setting up your companies once you know that the liability is only limited to that the company or to that particular partner that is involved in any misconduct.
So every partner has got his name on the MEMAT?
Yes.
Yeah, so if it's a 30%, 30%, that's limited to that, and you don't take the entire company down the drain.
Yes, you don't take the entire company down
and the partners along with them. And just kill the business, technically speaking.
Yes.
Because it's a bit of a vicarious liability under business law. Because everybody carries it.
Yes, and the liability is on you, which most people try to also avoid. There's also something interesting about this new law that we also need to look at. Ab initio, when you see companies, when they run into issues in terms of liquidity or insolvency, the mindset is always that we need to wind them up, fold them up, sell, strip up their assets, and try to recover whatever cash you can as much as possible.
In particular, the banks are fond of doing that.
Yes. And with this new provision, this new act
on insolvency.
Yes, the focus is more on if you have viable companies, try to see how you can revive those companies such that even if the company is not performing, see how you can restructure if you know that there's a potential.
That's not going to be good news for receiver managers.
Yes, so now it's appointing administrators rather than receiver managers.
This is a blue ocean, and I think I like that. Nobody likes receiver managers. They sound more like undertakers.
Yes, because you see companies that have potential. Sometimes in businesses, either based on making wrong decisions, within policies, within a particular period, you may run into challenges. But it doesn't mean that in terms of business opportunities does not still exist.
Idea or
does not still exist. So if you see that you just need capital injection. We saw what happened in the banks, appointing some management to take over some of those banks to stabilize them. We saw Etisalat too, how new management tried to stabilize rather than fold all this complaint, pay up the loan, and when you look at it leads to unemployment in terms of also contribution to GDP, which we see telecoms is a major contributor to GDP. Those will be affected. So it's a welcome development that you have to look at the long-term view of those companies before you wind them up.
This is what obtains in developed world, and I think that's just what I see here, and that's just what everyone is saying. At least in the last 24 hours when this came out, that this is what obtains globally. That you don't just bring in receiver managers as undertakers to just wrap up the company, send hundreds of staff away, government taxes shut down, supply, whatever. The whole impact on the broad economy from the other economy is brought to bear on that particular company. Now you can have, as we said, administrators who can take a look at the books and prepare the company for a new direction, rather than winding it off, pay off creditors, suppliers, whatever and everybody go home.
Yes, it's best practice, and the reason why it's taking this long, you looked at the last 14 years, a lot in terms of business strategy has changed, in terms of business environment has changed, and the law has remained the same. So bringing it to conform to best practice or what is obtainable in other countries, it's something that other, even for foreign investors, they will also be happy to come in and set up businesses and partner with the company.
They'll be looking at this. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back for everyone to continue this conversation.